Dr. Ryan Carter wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished treating another crew member with space sickness. 3 years working as chief medical officer on the USS Horizon had taught him to handle almost any medical emergency. He had dealt with broken bones, mysterious alien viruses, and even a case of explosive decompression. But nothing could prepare him for what was about to happen. The alarm screamed through the ship's corridors. Ryan grabbed his medical kit and ran toward the bridge. Captain Linda Hayes was already barking orders at her crew when he arrived. "We've got a distress signal," she said, her eyes fixed on the main screen. "Alien vessel badly damaged. Life signs are weak." Ryan watched as the image appeared on screen. The ship was unlike anything he had seen before. Its hull was dark red, almost like dried blood, with sharp angles that made it look like a weapon itself. Smoke poured from multiple breaches in its side. "Those are Valorians," Lieutenant Danny Cooper said from his station. "Their government doesn't like outsiders. They barely talk to anyone." Captain Hayes looked at Ryan. "Get your team ready, Doctor. We're bringing survivors aboard." 20 minutes later, Ryan stood in the docking bay with Nurse Amy Rodriguez and 2 medical technicians. The airlock hissed open and the rescue team came through carrying bodies on stretchers. Ryan's breath caught in his throat. The aliens were huge, at least 7 feet tall, with skin that shimmered between blue and purple. Their faces were sharp and angular, with eyes that glowed even in unconsciousness. "We found 6 alive," Lieutenant Cooper said. 3 are stable, 2 are critical, and 1 is barely holding on. Ryan moved quickly, checking each patient. The stable ones had minor injuries that Amy could handle. The critical ones needed immediate surgery. But the 6th patient made him stop cold. She was smaller than the others, maybe 6.5 feet tall. Her armor was different too, covered in intricate designs that seemed to glow faintly. Blood seeped through the damaged plates. Her breathing was shallow and irregular. "This one is royalty," one of the Valorian survivors said in broken English. He was wounded but conscious, and his eyes were filled with fear. "She is Princess Zara Valthar. You cannot touch her. Only Valorian doctors can treat royal blood." Ryan checked her vital signs with his scanner. The readings were terrible. She had internal bleeding, plasma burns across her torso, and her organs were shutting down. Without immediate surgery, she would die within the hour. "Where is your doctor?" Ryan asked. The Valorian soldier's face darkened. "Dead. He died protecting the princess from the attack." "Then I need to operate now," Ryan said, already moving the stretcher toward medical bay. 2 Valorian guards who could still walk blocked his path. They were injured but standing firm. "You will not touch the princess," the larger one growled. "It is forbidden by our laws. We would rather die with honor than let an alien defile her." Ryan felt anger rise in his chest. "She's dying. If I don't operate in the next 30 minutes, your princess will be dead." "Is that what your honor demands?" "Our laws are clear," the guard said. "No one outside the royal physicians may touch a member of the ruling family." "The penalty is death." Captain Hayes stepped forward. "This is my ship and my doctor. If he says she needs surgery, she gets surgery." The Valorian guards reached for their weapons, but they were too weak to draw them. Ryan made a decision. He had become a doctor to save lives, not to watch people die because of rules. He pushed past the guards and rushed the stretcher into the operating room. "Amy, prep for surgery. Now," he shouted. The guards tried to follow, but Captain Hayes ordered security to hold them back. Their angry voices echoed down the hallway as Ryan sealed the operating room door. Amy had already started setting up the instruments. "Are you sure about this, Ryan?" "You heard what they said. Their laws are serious." "I'm sure," Ryan said, scrubbing his hands. "I'll deal with the consequences later. Right now I have a patient dying on my table." He had never operated on a Valorian before. Everything he knew came from the xenobiology database, which had limited information since Valorians rarely shared their medical knowledge. He would have to adapt human surgical techniques and hope their biology was similar enough. The princess's armor was fused to her skin in places from the plasma burns. Ryan carefully cut it away, revealing the full extent of her injuries. It was worse than he thought. Her internal organs were arranged differently than human ones, and the bleeding was coming from multiple sources. "Suction here," he told Amy, pointing to a wound. "I need to see what I'm working with." For the next 18 hours, Ryan worked without stopping. He repaired torn blood vessels using techniques he had learned on Earth, modified for Valorian anatomy. He removed damaged tissue and cauterized wounds with precision. When he discovered that her blood type was incompatible with any stored supply, He spent 2 hours synthesizing a compatible substitute using her own cells. Amy handed him instruments and kept the princess stable while he worked. Several times the vital signs crashed and Ryan had to restart her heart. Each time he refused to give up. Outside the operating room, the Valorian guards kept watch. Captain Hayes brought them food and water, which they refused. They sat in silence, waiting to see if their princess would live or die, and what punishment the human doctor would face. As dawn approached on ship time, Ryan finally closed the last incision. The princess's vital signs were weak but steady. Her breathing had stabilized and the internal bleeding had stopped. She was alive. Ryan pulled off his gloves and stumbled back from the table. His hands were shaking from exhaustion. Amy caught him before he fell. "You did it," she said quietly. "You actually did it." Ryan looked at the unconscious princess. Her face was peaceful now, no longer twisted in pain. He had saved her life, but he had also broken their most sacred law. What happened next was out of his hands. He opened the operating room door. The Valorian guard stood immediately, their eyes searching his face for answers. "She's alive," Ryan said simply. "She'll need time to recover, but she should make a full recovery." The guards looked at each other, then back at Ryan. The larger one spoke, his voice heavy with emotion. "You have saved the princess. For this we are grateful, but you have also touched her without permission. When she wakes, there will be a reckoning. Our laws do not forgive even for noble reasons." Ryan nodded. He understood. He had chosen to save a life over following their rules. Now he would face whatever consequences came from that choice. As the guards entered the room to watch over their princess, Ryan walked to his quarters and collapsed onto his bed. He had no idea that his life had just changed forever, that the simple act of doing his job would lead him down a path he never imagined. Sleep took him quickly, and in his dreams he saw violet eyes opening to look at him with curiosity and something else he couldn't name. 3 days passed before Princess Zara regained full consciousness. Ryan checked on her every 4 hours, monitoring her recovery while the Valorian guards watched his every move. They never spoke to him, never thanked him, just stared with their glowing eyes that seemed to see right through him. On the morning of the 4th day, Ryan entered the medical bay to find the princess sitting up in bed. Her violet eyes were alert and focused directly on him. She was still weak, but there was strength in her gaze that made him stop in his tracks. "You are the human doctor," she said. Her voice was rough from disuse but carried natural authority. "You are the one who saved my life." "Yes, Your Highness," Ryan said carefully. "How are you feeling?" "I feel alive, which surprises me." She looked down at her bandaged torso. "I remember the attack on my ship. I remember the pain, then nothing until I woke here." She fixed him with an intense stare. "My guards tell me you operated on me against their wishes. They tell me you broke our most sacred law." Ryan met her eyes steadily. "Your guards were right to try to stop me. I knew about your laws, but I'm a doctor. I couldn't stand by and watch you die when I had the skills to save you." Princess Zara was quiet for a long moment. "You chose my life over your own safety. That is either very brave or very foolish." "Maybe both," Ryan admitted. A slight smile crossed her face. Gone so quickly, Ryan wondered if he had imagined it. "My ship has been repaired enough for travel. My people have requested that I return home immediately. The High Council wishes to address what happened here." "I understand," Ryan said. "When do we leave?" "We?" She raised one elegant eyebrow. "I broke your law. I assume I'll be going with you to face justice for what I did." Princess Zara nodded slowly. "You assume correctly. Captain Hayes has already been informed. You have 1 week to prepare." The next 7 days passed in a blur. Captain Hayes tried to contact the Earth Alliance diplomatic corps, but the Valorians insisted this was an internal matter. Ryan spent his time teaching Amy everything he knew about the medical bay, making sure she could handle the job after he was gone. On his last night aboard the USS Horizon, Amy found him in his quarters packing his few belongings. "This is wrong," she said, her eyes red from crying. "You saved her life. They should be giving you a medal, not dragging you off to some alien trial." "Their culture is different from ours," Ryan said gently. "I knew the risk when I made my choice. I'd make the same choice again." Amy hugged him tightly. "Promise me you'll come back. Promise me you'll find a way." Ryan couldn't promise that, so he said nothing. He just held his friend and hoped he would see her again someday. The Valorian flagship, the Crimson Spear, docked with the USS Horizon the next morning. Ryan walked across the docking tube with a single bag of belongings. The inside of the Valorian ship was dark and warm, with red lighting that made everything look like it was covered in blood. Princess Zara was there to meet him, now dressed in formal armor that gleamed like metal. She looked completely recovered, showing no signs of the injuries that had nearly killed her. "Dr. Carter," she said formally, "welcome aboard. You will be given quarters near the medical wing. You are not a prisoner, but you are not free to leave. Do you understand?" "Yes, Your Highness." "Good. We will arrive at Talvara, my homeworld, in 12 days. The tribunal will be held immediately upon our arrival." The journey was strange. Ryan was treated well, given good food and comfortable quarters. But he was also isolated. The crew avoided him, and when he walked through the corridors, conversation stopped. He was the alien who had touched their princess, and they didn't know whether to hate him or respect him. Princess Zara visited him each day in the medical wing. At first she came for checkups, making sure her recovery was complete. But the visits grew longer, and she began asking questions about Earth, about humans, about why Ryan had chosen to become a doctor. "On my world, physicians serve only the worthy," she explained one day. "The strong, the noble, the useful. We do not waste resources on the weak. On Earth, we believe everyone deserves medical care," Ryan said. "Rich or poor, strong or weak. A life is a life." She seemed troubled by this concept. "And you truly believe this? Even when resources are limited?" "Especially then," Ryan said. "That's when our principles matter most." Princess Zara looked at him with an expression he couldn't read. "You are a strange creature, Ryan Carter. Your people are strange. Perhaps that is why you did what you did." The ship emerged from faster-than-light travel above Talvara on the 12th day. Ryan looked out a viewport at the planet below. It was mostly red desert with scattered oceans and cities that glittered like jewels in the harsh sunlight. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Princess Zara said, appearing beside him. "This is my home.
These are my people."
And soon you will face their judgment." They transported down to the surface, and Ryan got his first look at the royal palace. It was carved from an entire mountain, with towers and spires reaching toward the sky. Inside, everything was grand and imposing, designed to make visitors feel small. The tribunal was held in a great hall with hundreds of Valorians in attendance. Ryan stood in the center while Princess Zara sat on a raised platform with other members of the royal family. An older Valorian with silver markings on his face stood to speak. This was Commander Krell, head of the princess's personal guard. "Dr. Ryan Carter, human of Earth," Krell's voice boomed through the hall. "You stand accused of touching royal blood without permission. This is a crime punishable by death under our oldest laws. How do you answer this charge?" Ryan kept his voice steady. "I don't deny what I did. Princess Zara was dying. I had the skills to save her. I chose to break your law rather than let her die." Murmurs ran through the crowd. Some sounded angry, others thoughtful. "The law is clear," another noble said. "Execution is the only acceptable punishment." "Wait." Princess Zara stood, and the hall fell silent. "There is more to consider. Dr. Carter saved my life. By our laws, this creates a life debt. He gave me back my existence when it was slipping away. Such a debt cannot be ignored." Commander Krell nodded slowly. "The princess speaks truth. A life debt is sacred, but so is the law against touching royalty. These two things are in conflict. Then I invoke the ancient right of Tahran," Princess Zara declared. "The binding of fates. Dr. Carter will enter my service as my personal physician. He will be bound to me until I declare the debt satisfied. This honors both the life debt and acknowledges his crime." The hall erupted in argument. Some nobles shouted their approval, others their outrage. Commander Krell raised his hand for silence. "The Tahran has not been invoked in 3 centuries," he said, "but it is still law. If the princess wishes this, and if the human accepts, it will be done." All eyes turned to Ryan. He understood what was being offered. Instead of execution, he would become a servant. He would be tied to Princess Zara, possibly for years, possibly forever, until she decided he had repaid his debt. It meant giving up his life on Earth, his career in the Earth Alliance, maybe his freedom, but it meant living. It meant continuing to practice medicine. And if he was honest with himself, it meant staying close to a culture that fascinated him, to people who were so different from humans yet similar in ways that mattered. "I accept," Ryan said clearly. "I will serve Princess Zara until she releases me from the debt." Princess Zara descended from the platform and stood before him. She placed her hand on his shoulder. a gesture that seemed significant to the watching Valorians. "Then it is done," she said. "You are mine now, Ryan Carter. Your life is bound to mine. Serve me well, and perhaps one day you will be free again." As the tribunal ended and the crowd dispersed, Ryan wondered what he had gotten himself into. He had come here expecting to die, and instead he had been given a strange new life. Princess Zara walked away without looking back, and guards escorted Ryan to his new quarters in the palace. His life had changed in ways he couldn't yet understand. The reward, if it could be called that, was still hidden in the future. For now, he was a prisoner of honor in a gilded cage on an alien world, bound to a princess who had every right to hate him, but instead had chosen to keep him close. The real story, he sensed, was just beginning. Ryan woke to the sound of drums echoing through the palace walls. It was his 30th day on Talvara, and he still wasn't used to the morning war rituals. The Valorians began each day with combat training, and the rhythmic pounding reminded everyone that they were a warrior culture first and everything else second. His quarters were larger than his entire apartment back on Earth had been. The walls were carved from the mountain itself, smooth and cold to the touch. The furniture was sized for Valorians, which meant everything was too big for him. He felt like a child living in a giant's house. A knock on his door announced the arrival of his daily escort. 2 guards stood outside, their faces blank and professional. They didn't speak to him anymore, just gestured for him to follow. This was his routine now. Wake up, get escorted to the medical wing, treat whoever needed treatment, study Valorian medicine, check on Princess Zara, and return to his quarters before the evening meal. The medical wing was his favorite place in the palace. Here at least he had a purpose. The other physicians had been hostile at first, but slowly they had begun to accept him. His techniques were different from theirs, sometimes better, and they were curious despite themselves. High Physician Dravek was waiting for him when he arrived. The old Valorian was head of all palace medicine and had made it clear from day one that he resented having a human in his department. "You are late," Dravek said, though Ryan knew he was exactly on time. "My apologies," Ryan said. He had learned not to argue. "We have 3 patients this morning, minor training injuries. You will observe while I work." Dravek's tone made it clear that Ryan was still not trusted to treat Valorians on his own, except for the princess. Ryan watched as Dravek treated a young warrior with a dislocated shoulder. The technique was efficient but rough. The warrior didn't even flinch, though Ryan knew it must have hurt. Valorians prided themselves on ignoring pain. "Your people are soft," Dravek commented as he worked. "They cry over small wounds. They fear pain. How did such weak creatures ever reach the stars?" "We're not as tough as Valorians," Ryan admitted, "but we make up for it in other ways. We work together. We help each other. Our weakness makes us kinder." Dravek snorted. "Kindness is not strength. Kindness gets you killed." After the morning patients were done, Ryan spent 2 hours in the medical library, studying Valorian anatomy texts. The language was still difficult, but he was getting better. His translator helped, but some medical terms had no human equivalent. At midday, he was summoned to Princess Zara's private chambers for her regular checkup. This was the part of his day he both looked forward to and dreaded. The princess was his patient, but she was also the person who owned his service. The relationship was complicated. Her chambers were in the highest tower of the palace. The guards let him pass without question now. Inside, Princess Zara stood by a window looking out over the city below. She wore simple training clothes instead of her formal armor, and her long, dark hair fell loose down her back. "Dr. Carter," she said without turning, "right on time as always. Tell me, do you ever get tired of being punctual?" "It's part of being professional," Ryan said, setting down his medical kit. "Ah, yes, professional." She finally turned to face him. "Is that what we are? Professional?" Ryan didn't know how to answer that. Over the past month, their relationship had shifted in subtle ways. She still asked him medical questions during the checkups, but she also asked about Earth, about his life before, about his opinions on things that had nothing to do with medicine. "How are you feeling today?" he asked, deflecting the question. "Strong, healthy. Your work was excellent, Dr. Carter. I have no pain, no weakness. You may have saved my life, but you also gave me back my full strength. Not all physicians can say the same." Ryan conducted his examination quickly. Her vital signs were perfect. The scars from her injuries were healing well. In another month, there would be barely any sign she had ever been hurt. "You're in excellent health, Your Highness. I don't think you need these daily checkups anymore. Weekly would be sufficient." Princess Zara smiled slightly. "Perhaps I enjoy the conversation. You are the only one in this palace who doesn't treat me like a piece of glass that might shatter. Everyone else either fears me or wants something from me. You just treat me like a patient." "You are my patient," Ryan said simply. "Yes, but I'm also your owner. Doesn't that bother you?" Ryan packed his instruments carefully before answering. "I made a choice on that ship. I knew the consequences. You could have had me executed. Instead, you gave me a chance to keep practicing medicine. I'm grateful for that, even if I'm not free. Gratitude." She said the word like she was tasting something unfamiliar. "Tell me, Ryan Carter, what would you be doing right now if you were still on your Earth ship?" "Probably treating someone with space sickness," Ryan said, which made her laugh. It was the first time he had heard her laugh, and it changed her whole face, making her seem younger and less burdened. Space sickness, such a human problem. Valorians do not get sick from travel. "No, you just get poisoned by political rivals," Ryan said before he could stop himself. The princess's expression darkened. "You heard about that?" Ryan had indeed heard. 3 weeks ago, someone had tried to poison Princess Zara's evening meal. The attempt had been clumsy, and the poison was one that Ryan recognized from Earth medical databases. He had identified it immediately and provided the antidote before she had even taken a bite. "I'm your physician," Ryan said. "Of course I heard. That's the second attempt on your life since I arrived. The third, actually. You just didn't hear about the first one." She walked back to the window. "I have enemies in the High Council. They don't like my ideas about opening relations with other species. They don't like that I believe Valoria's isolation makes us weaker, not stronger. And they especially don't like that I kept you alive and brought you here. Because I'm human. Because you're proof that other species have value, that we can learn from outsiders, that our old ways might not be the only ways." She looked at him over her shoulder. "You're dangerous to them, Ryan Carter. Not because of what you can do, but because of what you represent." A chill ran down Ryan's spine. "Should I be worried? I have guards watching you at all times. Anyone who wants to hurt you would have to go through me first." Her voice carried absolute certainty. "You are under my protection. That means something among my people." Before Ryan could respond, alarms began blaring throughout the palace. The guards burst into the room with weapons drawn. Princess Zara immediately shifted into warrior mode, her relaxed posture becoming sharp and ready. "Report," she commanded. "Attack in the lower city," one guard said quickly. "Rebel forces. They're targeting the palace supply routes." Princess Zara grabbed her armor from a stand near the door. "Seal the palace. Full defensive positions. Send word to the Third Fleet." "Your Highness, you should remain here where it's safe," the guard protested. "I command the Third Fleet. My place is with my warriors." She finished sealing her armor and grabbed her weapons. Then she paused and looked at Ryan. "You will stay here. These chambers are the most secure place in the palace. Do not leave for any reason. But if there are wounded, you are too valuable a target. My enemies would love to kill the human physician and blame it on the rebels. Stay here." "That's an order." She swept out of the room with her guards, leaving Ryan alone. He could hear the sounds of combat in the distance, the distinctive crack of energy weapons and the shouts of warriors. His instincts told him to help, to go where the wounded were, but he knew she was right. He would be a liability down there, not an asset. Hours passed. Ryan paced the chambers, unable to sit still while people were fighting and dying somewhere below. Finally, as evening approached, the sounds of combat faded. Princess Zara returned, her armor scorched and bloodied, but she herself unharmed. "It's over," she said, removing her helmet. "The rebels are captured. We lost 12 warriors and 34 were injured. Take me to the wounded," Ryan said immediately. She shook her head. "Dravek and his team are handling it. You're not cleared to work on military personnel yet." "Then change that. Clear me, I can help." Princess Zara studied him for a long moment. "Why? These aren't your people. You don't owe them anything. They're wounded and I'm a doctor. That's all that matters." Something shifted in her expression. She reached out and placed her hand on his shoulder. A gesture he had learned was significant in Valorian culture. It showed respect between equals. "Tomorrow I will speak to Dravek. You will be given broader medical clearance. You've earned it." She paused. "When the poison was put in my food, you saved me without hesitation. You didn't ask what was in it for you. You just acted. Do you know what we call someone like that in my language? What? Talshara. It means shield brother, soul guardian, someone who protects another without thought of personal gain. Her violet eyes held his. You are my Talshara, Ryan Carter, whether you intended to be or not. Ryan didn't know what to say. The word sounded important, heavy with meaning he didn't fully understand, but he could see in her face that something had changed between them. He was no longer just her physician or her servant. He had become something else, something that mattered in ways he was only beginning to grasp. As he made his way back to his quarters that night, 6 months had changed everything. Ryan walked through the palace corridors without an escort now, his face recognized by guards and nobles alike. Some nodded to him respectfully, others turned away in disgust. But no one could deny that he had earned his place here through skill and dedication. He had treated hundreds of patients by now, from common soldiers to high nobles. Word had spread about the human doctor who could heal injuries that other physicians said were beyond help. He had adapted human surgical techniques for Valorian physiology, introduced new medicines, and trained a small group of younger physicians who were curious about his methods. High Physician Dravek still didn't like him, but even the old Valorian had grudgingly admitted that Ryan knew his craft. That admission had come after Ryan had saved the life of Dravek's own grandson during a training accident that had punctured the young warrior's lung. But all of Ryan's accomplishments meant nothing compared to the political storm that was building. Today was the Festival of Blades, the ceremony where Princess Zara would be formally recognized as the supreme commander of all Valorian military forces. It was supposed to be a celebration. Instead, it had become a battlefield. Ryan stood in the Great Hall along with thousands of other observers. He wore formal clothes that had been made for him, cut in Valorian style but sized for a human. Princess Zara had insisted he attend, though he would have preferred to stay away from palace politics. The hall was massive, with a domed ceiling that showed the stars above through clear crystal panels. In the center was a raised platform where the ceremony would take place. The emperor himself would preside, an ancient Valorian who rarely appeared in public anymore. Princess Zara entered wearing ceremonial armor that gleamed like captured starlight. She walked with absolute confidence, her head high, every inch a warrior commander. Ryan felt pride watching her, though he knew he had no right to such feelings. She was his employer, not his friend, no matter how comfortable their daily conversations had become. The emperor rose from his throne, his movements slow with age. Today we honor Princess Zara Valthar, victor of the Battle of Red Sands, destroyer of the Krell raiders, defender of our borders. She has proven herself worthy to command our fleets and lead our warriors. Is there any who would challenge this recognition? Ryan expected silence. The ceremony was supposed to be formal, a ritual without real opposition. But a tall Valorian in dark armor stepped forward from the noble section. I challenge this recognition, the Valorian said, his voice carrying through the hall. Shocked whispers ran through the crowd. Ryan recognized the speaker. It was Lord Theron, one of the most powerful conservative nobles and a known opponent of Princess Zara's reformist ideas. On what grounds? The emperor asked, his ancient voice sharp despite his age. The princess has been tainted, Lord Theron declared. She allowed herself to be touched by an alien, a human of no rank or standing. By our oldest laws, such contact defiles royal blood. She is no longer fit to command warriors who value purity and tradition. The hall erupted in argument. Some nobles shouted their agreement with Theron. Others defended the princess. Ryan felt sick to his stomach. This was about him, about the surgery he had performed to save her life. They were using his actions to destroy her career. Princess Zara raised her hand and silence fell immediately. She looked at Lord Theron with cold fury. You dare question my fitness? I who have won more battles than you have attended councils. I who have shed blood for this empire while you sipped wine in your estate. Your military record is not in question, Theron said smoothly. Your judgment is. You not only allowed the human to touch you, you brought him here and gave him status. You have shown that you value alien ways over our traditions. This makes you unfit to lead Valorian warriors. Ryan wanted to speak up to defend her, but he knew it would only make things worse. This was Valorian politics, and he was the outsider who had caused the problem. Princess Zara descended from the platform and walked toward Lord Theron. The crowd parted for her. When she stood face to face with him, her voice carried to every corner of the hall. You want to speak of traditions? Then let us speak of the oldest traditions. When I lay dying on that human ship, my guards wanted to let me die rather than accept help from an outsider. They valued law over life. But Dr. Ryan Carter valued life over law. He broke your precious rules to save me, knowing it might cost him his freedom or his life. She turned to address the entire hall. And what did I do when I recovered? I invoked the Taharan, binding him to my service. But that was 6 months ago. Today I invoke a different tradition, one that is older and more sacred. Ryan's translator struggled with the Valorian phrase she used next. But the reaction from the crowd made it clear this was significant. I name Ryan Carter as my consort physician, a title that exists in our oldest laws but has not been used in centuries. As consort physician, he will be elevated to noble status. He will have a voice in court matters. He will be bound to me not by servitude but by mutual choice and honor. The hall exploded in chaos. Nobles were shouting, some in fury, others in approval. Lord Theron's face turned dark with rage. You cannot do this, he shouted. The council will never approve. The council does not approve consort physicians, Princess Zara interrupted. Only the ruling family does, and I have my father's blessing. She gestured to the emperor, who nodded slowly. This is an outrage, Theron snarled. You would make a human into a noble? You would give alien scum the same status as warriors who have bled for this empire. I would honor someone who saved my life and has served with dedication and skill, Princess Zara said. But if you disagree, Lord Theron, our laws give you the right to challenge this appointment. Ryan Carter must undergo the trials of fire to prove his worthiness. Will you invoke that right? Ryan's blood ran cold. He had heard whispers about the trials of fire. They were brutal tests that had killed candidates in the past. But he saw what Princess Zara was doing. She was forcing Theron's hand. If he invoked the trials and Ryan passed, Theron would lose all credibility. If he didn't invoke them, he would appear weak. I invoke the trials of fire, Theron said, his voice filled with malice. Let the human prove he deserves to stand among us. Let him prove he is worthy of the honor you wish to give him. And when he fails, as he must, his death will be on your hands. Princess Zara's expression didn't change. The trials will begin in 1 week. Ryan Carter, do you accept this challenge? All eyes turned to Ryan. He could refuse. He could stay as he was, a servant physician with no status, safe but forever bound. Or he could accept and risk everything in trials designed to break Valorian warriors, let alone a human. He thought about his months on Talvara. He thought about the patients he had treated, the respect he had slowly earned, the way Princess Zara looked at him not as property, but as someone who mattered. He thought about the life he had built here, strange as it was. I accept, Ryan said clearly. I will take the trials of fire. The next week was the hardest of Ryan's life. Princess Zara assigned him a trainer, a scarred veteran named Krill who had survived the trials himself decades ago. The trials consisted of 3 parts: physical combat, mental challenges, and the rite of scars. Krill was brutal in his training. You are weak, he said bluntly on the first day. Humans are weak. But you are clever. Use your brain to make up for your soft body. For 6 days, Ryan trained until he could barely stand. He learned to fight in the Valorian style, not to win but to show courage and skill. He studied philosophy and history, preparing for debates with scholars who would try to trap him with impossible questions. And he learned about the rite of scars, the final test that would mark him as Valorian if he survived it. Princess Zara visited him each evening after training. She brought food and sat with him while he ate, though she said little. On the night before the trials began, she finally spoke. You don't have to do this. I can refuse the challenge. You can remain as you are. And you would lose all credibility, Ryan said. Theron would use it against you forever. He would say you feared for your human pet. Better that than you dying in the arena. Her voice was sharp. You're a physician, not a warrior. These trials were designed for Valorian soldiers. Then I'll be the first physician to pass them, Ryan said with more confidence than he felt. You gave me a chance when you could have let me die. You elevated me from servant to something more. I won't let you down. She looked at him for a long moment. You truly see yourself as Valorian now, don't you? Ryan thought about it. I see myself as someone who found a home in an unexpected place, as someone who belongs here if I can prove it. You've already proven it to me, she said quietly. Now you just need to prove it to everyone else. The trials began at dawn. Thousands gathered in the arena to watch. Ryan faced 3 opponents in combat, each a trained warrior. He lost all 3 fights but managed to land blows to show technique, to demonstrate that he wouldn't quit no matter how badly he was beaten. The crowd cheered, not because he won, but because he kept getting up. The mental trials were held in the Hall of Wisdom. For hours, philosophers and scholars challenged him with questions about honor, duty, and sacrifice. Ryan answered honestly, drawing on both human and Valorian philosophy. When they tried to trap him. 3 years had passed since the day Ryan Carter first set foot on Telvara, as a prisoner bound by honor debt. Now he stood on the balcony of his own residence within the palace complex, watching the twin moons rise over the crystalline towers of the Valorian capital. The view never got old. His quarters were no longer the oversized rooms he had been given as a servant. These were proper noble apartments, sized appropriately and decorated with a mix of Valorian and human styles. On one wall hung his medical certifications from both Earth and Telvara. On another, the ceremonial blade Princess Zara had given him after he completed the trials of fire. The scars on his shoulders had healed into the traditional patterns, marks of honor that every Valorian recognized. He wore them proudly now, along with formal robes that marked his status as consort physician. When he walked through the city, people bowed respectfully. Children pointed at him with curiosity. The alien doctor had become a permanent fixture in their society. But Ryan's greatest achievement wasn't his status or his scars. It was the building that now stood in the lower city, near where the rebel attack had happened 3 years ago. The Integrated Medical Center was the first hospital on Telvara that treated everyone equally, Valorian and alien alike, noble and common. It was everything Ryan had dreamed of when he first became a doctor. He heard footsteps behind him and turned to see Princess Zara entering his quarters without ceremony. They had long since moved past formal protocols when they were alone. She wore simple clothes rather than armor, and her hair was pulled back in a practical style. "Working late at the center again?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. She could see the exhaustion in his face. "We had a difficult case. Young Valorian, training accident, crushed spine. Took 8 hours of surgery, but we saved her ability to walk." Ryan poured 2 glasses of a Valorian drink similar to wine. "Your physician's assisted. Dravek's grandson was there. He's become an excellent surgeon." Zara accepted the glass and joined him on the balcony. "Dravek told me yesterday that you're a better teacher than he ever was." Coming from him, that's practically a love confession. Ryan laughed. "He still thinks humans are too soft. But at least now he admits we're useful." They stood in comfortable silence, looking out over the city. This had become their ritual over the years. After long days of work and politics, they would meet here or in Zara's chambers and simply be themselves. No titles or roles, just 2 people who had somehow become essential to each other's lives. "The High Council met today," Zara said eventually. "They approved my proposal for the new alliance initiative. 3 more species have agreed to open diplomatic relations with Valoria. Lord Theron tried to block it, of course, but he's lost most of his support. Because of the medical center? Because of everything we've built together. The center, the training programs, the cultural exchanges. You proved that working with other species makes us stronger, not weaker. Even the most stubborn conservatives can't deny the results." Ryan felt pride at her words, but also something else. Over 3 years, his feelings for Zara had evolved in ways he had tried hard to ignore. She was brilliant and fierce, compassionate beneath her warrior exterior, and she understood him in ways no one else ever had. But she was also a princess, a military commander, and someone whose life operated on a level far above his. "I received a message from Captain Hayes today," Ryan said, changing the subject. "The USS Horizon will pass through this sector next month. She asked if I wanted to meet with the crew." Zara turned to look at him, her violet eyes catching the moonlight. "And do you want to see them?" "Yes, I miss Amy. I miss hearing human jokes and eating human food. But it's strange, you know. They feel like a memory now. This is my real life." "You could go back with them if you wanted," Zara said quietly. "Your life debt was satisfied years ago. You've earned your freedom 100 times over. I told you that when you completed the trials." Ryan had known this conversation would come eventually. "Is that what you want? For me to leave?" "What I want doesn't matter. You should be free to choose." "I am free," Ryan said firmly. "I've been free since the trials. I stay here because I want to, not because I have to." "Why?" Zara's voice was barely above a whisper. "Why do you stay?" You could return to Earth to your own people. You could practice medicine anywhere in the galaxy. Why remain here? Ryan set down his glass and turned to face her fully. They were close now. Close enough that he could see the uncertainty in her eyes, something he had never seen there before. You really don't know? He asked. Tell me. I stay because this is home now. Because the work we do at the center matters. Because I've trained a new generation of physicians who see medicine as I do. Because I've built friendships here and earned respect. He paused. And because you're here. Zara went very still. Ryan, I know what I am, he continued before she could protest. I'm human. I'm shorter, weaker, and I'll probably die decades before you do. I'm not Valorian nobility by birth. I'm just a doctor who was in the right place at the right time and made a choice that changed everything. You're more than that, Zara said fiercely. You're Tal Shara. You're the person who saved my life twice. You're the one who proved that honor and compassion aren't opposites. She stopped, seeming to struggle with words. I'm what? You're the person I trust most in this entire empire, she said finally. The person I look for in every room I enter. The person whose opinion matters more than the entire High Council combined. This time Ryan interrupted by taking her hand. It was a simple gesture, but one loaded with meaning in Valorian culture. 3 years ago, such contact would have caused scandal. Now guards who passed by the balcony simply nodded and looked away, giving them privacy. I love you, Ryan said simply. I've loved you for a long time. I know it's complicated. I know there are 1,000 reasons why this is impossible. But you asked me why I stay, and that's the truth. Zara looked down at their joined hands, then back up at his face. When I was lying on that medical table dying, I remember thinking that death would be easier than living with the burden of my position. Then you saved me, and I was angry. Angry that I had to keep carrying that weight. I'm sorry. Don't be. Because then I got to know you. I watched you adapt to our culture, earn respect through pure skill and dedication. I watched you face the trials that kill trained warriors and survive through sheer stubbornness. I watched you build something beautiful in the medical center, and I realized something. What? That you didn't just save my life that day. You showed me what life could be. You showed me that strength comes in many forms, that leadership means serving others, that the greatest courage is choosing compassion even when it's difficult. You changed me, Ryan Carter. She raised her free hand and gently touched his face, a gesture of deep affection among Valorians. I love you too. I have for longer than I wanted to admit. I told myself it was impossible, that the cultural differences were too great, that I had duties that came before personal feelings. But I was wrong. Ryan felt his heart racing. So what do? We do what we've always done. We break the rules that need breaking and honor the ones that matter. We build something new together. She smiled. Besides, you're already consort physician. The title literally means someone bound to a royal by choice and affection. We've been doing this all along. We just weren't admitting it. Ryan laughed, feeling lighter than he had in years. So we're officially together now? The princess and her human doctor? The commander and her Tal Shara, Zara corrected. My equal, my partner, my shield brother. Yes, we're together. Is that acceptable to you? More than acceptable. She leaned closer, and for the first time they kissed. It was gentle and careful, a bridge between two very different people who had found common ground. When they finally pulled apart, both were smiling. The High Council will have opinions about this, Ryan said. Let them have opinions. You survived the trials of fire. You've earned your place here by every law and tradition we have. If they object, they can take it up with me. Her voice carried the absolute authority of someone who commanded fleets. Over the following months, their relationship became public knowledge. Some Valorians disapproved, but most accepted it. Ryan had proven himself too many times for anyone to seriously question his worth. The medical center continued to grow, treating thousands of patients. Ryan's training programs graduated more physicians who carried his values of equality and compassion. Captain Hayes visited with the USS Horizon and was stunned by the changes in her former medical officer. Ryan had aged, with gray now threading through his hair, but he carried himself with confidence and belonging. Amy hugged him so tightly he could barely breathe. You did it, she whispered. You found where you belong. I did, Ryan agreed. It wasn't what I expected, but it's better than anything I imagined. He introduced them to Zara and watched as his old captain and his partner discussed military tactics with mutual respect. 2 different worlds, 2 different cultures connected through him. The night before the horizon departed, Ryan stood once again on his balcony with Zara beside him. She had been his patient, his employer, his challenge, and now his partner. The journey from that first emergency surgery to this moment had been long and difficult.